I just, want to keep the culture alive. Bring the classics and bring the community together.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome to Nostalgia on the Mic, the home of classic hip-hop and soulful R&B vibes. I'm your host, T, and this is episode 4, Mic Check Artist Spotlight. And here we honor the legends, celebrate the culture, and keep the sound alive for the next generation. As always, we have a great show planned for you today. But first, make sure you like, comment, share, follow us on all platforms, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to catch the latest drops and exclusive content. Coming up later, I'll be chopping it up with Lingotheicon as we tap into his journey for hip-hop and the fire that he's bringing with his latest music.
I speak to the masses, you mass spreading malignant neoplasm and drab settings, revealing of the past like Vlad questions. Not introspective for your inspection, recons of recollections on cons, just for connections. Not I said to seeing blind man off a perspective. I sneeze your biggest moments, I cough your best suggestions. Excuse me, the sickness got me unruly. I'm not talking for my health, you can unmute me. This for the vodka seltzer sippers, yeah, yours truly.
Barre Jones, known by his stage name Lingotheicon, is a hip-hop artist hailing all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. A firm believer in the power of impactful lyrics, he focuses on crafting authentic stories that resonate deeply with his listeners. Though he's been recording music for over a decade, his journey as a songwriter began in elementary school. Every track he releases, fully written, mixed, and mastered by him, reflects his dedication to the craft. Driven by passion and heart, Lingotheicon continues to share his music with anyone who's willing to listen. All right, Lingo, we on. How you doing?
Doing good in yourself. How's your day been?
Good. Can't complain. Busy day at work, but it's all good. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So like I tell my guests, I'm not going to hold you long. We're going to get right into it, okay?
All right, that's fine with me.
So as a hip-hop head, when was the first time you heard hip-hop? Was it a track or a specific moment that kind of pulled you in?
I was thinking about that. I don't remember. It's been so long ago. I don't remember like what specifically pulled me in. I'm thinking like I was a real big fan of Mace. I think he was like one of my first. Yeah, he was one of the first artists that I actually had an affinity for. Like Mace was really dope. The outfits, the aesthetic. That's when I found out like how much aesthetic mattered. When it came to like Mace videos, and he was popular. A lot of people, Harlem World, the way like people regard Harlem World, I was one of those people. As much as I could like fathom because I had to be about 5 or 6 years old. So, and then not necessarily hip hop, but like more so like beats and stuff like that. Like when you think about like the Real Loves and how hip hop that beat was, and how Mary J kind of teetered the line of, hip hop and R&B, but she was very hip hop in her approach to songs and stuff. I think that was kind of like my first influence, like hearing those type of beats and like seeing Mace and like the hits he had and all of those. I think he was my first like remembrance of like, well, this is hip hop. I like this, even though it was flashy, bravado, but it was still like, okay, I like this. You know what I mean?
And that was my follow-up question. Was there a specific artist or group that kind of made you fall in love with the genre? So when coming up, did you have the family played hip hop, or did you find it on your own? I should say.
They contributed because like car rides, we had this station in Baltimore. It's still like a staple, but like. 90s radio was different, but not Q. They were heavy. And then obviously being in the DMV area, we had 93.9 and 95.5, and they were like hip hop and R&B stations. But 92Q, being that it was a Baltimore station, it was a staple in the city. Like, just listening to like club music, and they had like live, mixes at 5 o'clock. Traffic jam, when you would hear music you've never heard before, what I'm saying? It wasn't like on the radio, but that's how they would introduce it to a crowd, stuff like that. But it was the radio more so than like actual, because like when we come to like actual like CDs and well, back then cassette tapes, it was a lot of R&B, a lot of Faith Evans, a lot of Deborah Cox, like my mom, and then my father's old school, Spinners, the Whispers, stuff like that. So, but like when it came to like just pure like flat out hip hop, it was more so the radio.
So as an artist, what kind of got you writing music? Like what inspired you to pick up the pen?
I mean, listen, hearing music. So I will say, I think everybody that is entrenched in the culture has tried to write. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think I was more so on a poetic thing in elementary school. I think it started with that. Projects in school before like they put the category creative writing on it. We had certain write a poem about your parents.
Right.
And I remember a specific poem. I don't remember like verbatim what I said, but I remember the subject of writing about my mom and dad in first grade, I believe, and it rhyming. And I think that kind of sparked like the creative writing in a sense. Obviously it grows and matures with your age and whatnot, but the creative writing process is definitely like, I think I can credit school for that. I ain't gonna lie. Like I wasn't doing it on my own, but like I found an affinity for it once like it got introduced to me in school.
So there's different, I guess, styles or techniques that people go about writing. I think we talked about it before, how you're just going in the studio and just, I guess it's called punch in.
Yeah, punching
you
in.
have the old school with the pen and the pad. So like, what is your first, describe your writing process, and has it changed since you first started?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we started with pen and paper. That's all we had, but now it's iPhone. So I don't know, like if I do like find myself writing in a notebook, that's for aesthetics. That's maybe for me trying to fall back in love with something about the process. But iPhone, writing in my notepad in my iPhone works just fine for me. Yeah.
I still do old school with the pen and the pad.
I know. And that and I do like I wrote something in 2023 but I wind up like just for consumption, for comfortability's sake, when I'm recording, it's just easier to hold my phone in my hand.
That's true.
Yeah, like the notepad was definitely, composition notebooks were my best friend. I still, if I could find, I've written through, probably went through books and books of stuff.
Wow.
At least 10 different composition notepads, and then I kind of dabbled with typing my lyrics out on a computer. I hate it. I don't like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I tried it. Because people know, crazy enough, I've gotten that from somebody else. Somebody said they typed their lyrics out on a computer. And I'm like, it feels too contrived for me. Like, it feels very unnatural to do that, Whereas though, like, the notepad is similar to text. And, like, we on our phones all day, we text back and forth. So it's second nature. But, like, if I'm actually getting, like, a composition notebook or just a piece of paper and writing, it's me searching for something. And I have had to go back to those roots several times, but it's just the convenience of having a thought and then just going into my phone. Because like if I got something and I can't find a notepad,
that's true. Make a note.
It's like, let me just make a note. Or if I got a flow, let me make a voice memo so I can remember how I approach this, and I'll add the words in later. But yeah, that's my process, and I do prefer the option.
So do you write to your beats, or do you craft your lyrics first and then match them later?
So I do write to the beat. I try to marry myself to the beat so I can that's how I find my pockets in certain things. I was just having this conversation though with somebody, like I want to teach myself, like I love MF Doom and people like that, like the Wu-Tangs, and like how Raekwon can, like, seems like he purposely raps off beat sometimes, like that off kilted flow, but it's still on beat in a sense. West Side Gun is pretty good at that as well, but I know West Side Gun just takes me as like he freestyles a lot, so I think it's just, how whatever he's thinking, that's just what I receive when I hear him. But like people like MF Doom, that it don't seem like he's staying on subject, but if you listen to like what he's talking about, everything he's saying, even if it's laid back and offbeat, it's on subject.
It's flowing.
And it makes sense. So I want to teach myself how to rap off beat like that, because sometimes I am married to the beat. I mean, most of the 90%, 99% of the time, I'm married to the beat, so I have to write to a beat. I do find myself jotting random lines down, like we just said, like a tough punchline or something like kind of speaks to me, and I'm, obviously I can assert it wherever I need to be, break it up, or kind of customize it for whatever I'm writing at the time, I can do that, but I'm gonna just jot it down. But as far as like writing, like to a beat, like it helps me with concepts. It helps me, with the hook and stuff like that. And it's very hard for me. Like I'm very ADHD when it comes to like, if I hear something, like if I hear a beat, right? Say for instance, I wrote a song to another beat and I can place the verse on another beat, it will go. And it'll probably be fine. But the perfectionist in me will want something fresh for that new beat. Because I've heard it before, and then by the time people have heard it, people may love it, but I've went through that verse probably 30,000 times by the time, you know what I mean? So it's like, it go, but I want something like fresh for this beat, because this beat is giving me a new idea, new concept. So,
Does this happen to you? I know it happens to me all the time. I have a bad habit of doing this. Let's say I'll choose a beat, write maybe a couple bars to it, and then I find myself just going through a bunch of instrumentals and change the beat while I'm writing. And I'm like, I find myself trying to fit this bar into this, and I'm like, but this sounds good too. Or should I just keep it because this is flowing? Like, do you find yourself changing the beat in the middle of writing?
Yes. And that's why I have to. So I've been, writing and making music for a while. So what I try to do, I try to be strict on myself. I have to, I have a line in one of my songs that said, worst thing you give somebody like me is variety. Cause I'm you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna be able to, I'm not going to be able to like just stick with it and complete it. So sometimes I have to force myself to like, no, you like this, write to this. And if I still have like unwavering emotion about like, I like this beat too, I'm going to write to that beat after I'm finished what I initially started. That's just kind of how I keep myself honest, you know what I mean? And completing, actually reaching completion, because it's hard, you know how it could be.
Oh yeah. It's so. I know you said earlier that you was trying to, not change your flow, but kind of get to where you rapping off beat like MF Doom and Raekwon. Currently, like the artist you are now, do you have any artists or albums that have like a biggest influence on your writing style?
Writing style, that's I loved that question when I read it. I loved it. Yeah, dude, I will say early, like not so to kind of paint the picture. So early when I first started writing, I would say like the Carter 2 had a heavy influence by how I wrote like back then. When I actually started diving into like writing music, like the Carter 2 had a heavy influence of how I wrote. Everybody loved Wayne and Cassidy. Like
Cassidy, definitely Cassidy.
Oh my goodness. Like that time frame for me, I know I'm a little older than you, so like that was like middle school for me.
Yeah,
and everybody loved Wayne and Cassidy in middle school. Like you can interview like some of my homies that do music, and they will probably tell you the same thing. Like Wayne and Cassidy had us in a chokehold in middle school. Like Wayne, and then I will say that what was it? Born Sinner, J. Cole had a heavy influence of how I wrote. Like around the time it came out, and J. Cole is actually one of those artists. All respect to him and his hard his hard year last year. I'm still a Cole believer. He actually makes me want to put pen to pad. Good Kid, Mad City actually made me start listening to hip hop different, just conceptually, and like the closest thing that we get to a movie on a disc. You know what I'm saying? The closest thing we get to a movie in listening terms as far as recent hip hop. I know like in the 90s, there was a lot of albums that created that vibe, and that's what it was. I think that's why so many people was in love with it, because it kind of brought you back to that, that made me want to be really conceptual, because it's like anytime somebody can world build like that. And Tyler, the Creator, is really good at that too, world building, the conceptual nature of it. And I say Jay-Z is good because like American Gangster, it was conceptual. It wasn't as conceptual as other things, but it was still a concept, and he got it over really well. And it just happened to be, match, for the movie. But he landed that really well, and that was a concept. And Jay-Z I don't think he gets the credit for being as conceptual. Like 444 is a very conceptual album. It was just a very blatant album because you knew what he was talking about. It's still a concept, and artists, not to say it's not a lot of artists that aren't good at conceptual albums, because it's quite a few. If I put my mind to it, I can list easily about 10 artists that I've heard concept albums from. But those are the ones that pop in my head for now. That it's just once we end it, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like it always happens like that. But like those albums kind of, and I will say, as of late, I've been getting a lot of writing influence from Aquemini, because they kind of like Big Boy is very good at that too. That off kilter rapping off beat on but then like he's not married to a pocket, but the end of his line still be right on beat. But he might take you somewhere else. Like I love, because it's like it don't seem technical, but it is when you think about like. And I think the technicality, it seems so natural, but it's the technicality that's still there when you hear Big Boy's verses, and obviously Andre is amazing. So that's that album as of late, because I just bought the vinyl not too long ago, and that album has been influencing me as far as like my writing style and even changing voices, stuff like that, just experimenting, making my voice more of an instrument.
Do you have any hip hop influences that kind of influence your writing style? Or your music, I should say.
Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder is like, he makes music with a freedom, and he also experimented with genres as well.
Oh yeah.
Like Hotter Than July is my joint. I love that album. I don't know, like, so obviously I talk about him last, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But also Erykah Badu, very huge influence because of the freedom, like, and it's kind of similar to, like, not saying they are similar, I'm just saying like the way they approach music is very similar from what I grasp, because the way Stevie Wonder his song can be 8 minutes or it can be 3 minutes. He'll have a jam session, in the middle towards the end of the song. Same for Erykah Badu. Her song can be, the song I Want You has like a 2-minute intro of the beat building up. And then the song, I think, winds up being like, it's close to 10 minutes, if it's not 10 minutes. But like the beginning of the beat is just the build of the beat. And it's like, it takes you all these places before you even hear her words,
Right.
Like the atmosphere of an Erykah Badu song is ridiculous, Man, Sade, I love Sade's essence and like how she, Sade's just a mood, man. Like her music is the epitome of like, you know what I'm saying? Like you hear Sade, it takes you back to like the nostalgia of like, I think that was, and I don't want to give you a bunch of hot takes, you know what I'm saying? But like, she's kind of like the exception, like, well, a part of her music feels like to me, a part of the inception of like neo soul in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I haven't heard anybody kind of describe it like that, even if it is like a thing. It may be a real thing where people like, her music feels like the inception of neo soul. Like if it wasn't quite called that yet, it felt like it was on the brink of, every neo soul artist loves Sade. You know what I mean? And I'm a real big advocate of neo soul. I love neo, just like every black person loves neo soul. So yeah, and then lastly, Smino. And the reason I know Smino is a rapper, but I mean, he gets in R&B pockets a lot, but the way he kind of like bends his words and stuff like that, like, I think Smino is hip hop because he can rap his tail off, but he has a neo soul presence as well, and I respect that. And it's just that Southern twang, well, Midwest twang rather, and the way he can like bend his words, and it seems effortless to him as well. You know what I mean? So I would say those artists like to recent memory.
Okay, so creatively, how do you stay sharp? Freestyling, battling, journaling?
Believe it or not, these type of conversations.
Okay.
Like I get a lot of ideas of things through conversations. Whether I'm bouncing ideas off of my fiance, or like, having a text conversation that may bring back a memory that I can kind of break down and turn into a story or something, even if it's not the exact story. For anonymity purposes, it'll be something close to that to just kind of get a message across. I freestyle an awful lot, though. I will say that. I kind of I dream, like I've had dreams of me freestyling in front of people, and like the verse was actually kind of decent. You know what I'm saying? To be honest, I had a crazy dream as a recent, and I seem to remember those dreams. Like I had a dream that I was freestyling in front of Murder Mook and Loaded Lux, and we was at like a cabin or something. Like it was weird, right? But they was being they normal. I've been watching them for years, and I will honestly say a lot of battle rap helps, like, makes me want to write. Battle rap. I love battle rap. I had to take a kind of step back from it. It gets redundant sometimes because I watch the battles of people that nobody knows, like that may have like K views on YouTube, to the Hitman Hollers, the Tay Rocks, and I'm a big Tay Rock fan because he's from the area I'm from. Not quite the same area, but like he's close to home. You know what I mean? He's very a legend. He's a battle rap legend. Loaded Lux, of course. I think one of the first battles I ever seen had to be like Murder Mook versus Jay Mills. It was one of the first battles I kind of caught on to. So been watching these people for years, man, and I will honestly say battle rappers are some of the most creative, pen-wise, some of the most creative people on this earth. And like my favorite battle rapper right now, which I'm sure is a lot of people's favorite battle rapper right now, is Rum Nitty from Phoenix. He's dope, you know what I mean? So his pen is crazy. But yeah, battle rap for sure. Like that also helps me. But I battled, but it was playful. Like I haven't been around like thousands of people and like, like the essence of where you come from type. You know what I mean? Like I do love it. And I've witnessed battles like that in school where like, I remember specifically a battle in middle school. This dude that actually did rap and he was known for rapping, which was kind of, you could tell he was really of the essence of rap, because like being known to rap when we were younger, it was looked at as like, oh, that's corny. You know what I mean? But we loved the culture. We loved it. But like, being from, you know what I mean? Like, and everybody that was like on the radio from the city was somebody calling them a cornball. You know what I mean? Like, it was a couple artists that I thought was dope. Like, oh, these people may have known him in real life and was probably hating on his success. He corny, da-da-da. Yeah, like to be known as a rapper in middle school and people kind of respect you for it, like that means you was like nice. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people ain't get respect for knowing how to rap until we got I would say until I got into college, really.
I think I was 16, but I was like writing way before. But like you said, it was. I felt like, and that's what kind of kept me, because felt like I wasn't being taken serious.
Yeah.
So I think I would say about 16. But back to that freestyle, you had sent me that freestyle a while ago, where I think it was, because I remember the beat. It went from Nas and then it went into Biggie. It was like a transition. That went crazy. Was that recent?
I'm trying to think. The best grand freestyle with that.
I don't know if it was like it was at a radio station.
Oh, it was at a radio station. No, that was
crazy.
That was actually, thank you. I appreciate that. I forgot about that.
I was listening, and because the transitions alone, but it was like how it was. Like you were just going with it.
They kind of five fingers of death me. Like they kind of did the sway thing with me, right? And I knew they were going to do it. So a quick story. I used to do a podcast at that radio station. But I was trying to maneuver in between being an interviewer and the interviewee.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of artists we were interviewing, they were dope, but it also a lot of people we interviewed wasn't just about like music. It was it was kind of like, what can I describe the podcast? It was a lot of if you had a good story, come on in and tell it and get judged for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's real. That's what it was back then. But so, I was in the radio station. A lot of those dudes at the radio, or a lot of just people, they were good people. The guy Scrap Money, good guy for letting me come on his show. He has a show called Social Loners. And he had me as a guest, and I was so nervous because I was like, I know I'm gonna have to rap. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't care how decent I am. I'm great at rapping, but I'm just trying to, it's nerve wracking. It's just nerve wracking. Like, it's always nerve wracking. Even performing, like I performed on the same bill that Conway the Machine was on. I performed I opened up for Sky Zoo. My voice went out one time. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've had, humbling moments, but at the same time, like the Conway the Machine show was fire. I killed that. But it's just a natural nervousness that comes over you when it's time for you to prove yourself, and it keeps you humble. But for me, I kind of use that as fuel to kind of go out there and do what God has blessed me to do. You know what I mean?
All right. Of course.
Yeah, so they set the scene. We had the little interview. I couldn't even tell you some of the questions that they asked me because I was so hell bent on rapping.
So focused on.
I was just ready for that moment. So they did their thing. Those verses were kind of like verses I've written to other things and maybe not have used, yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of put them all together. I rehearsed for like 2 weeks before that, like up until that point. Mm-hmm. But that was 2018.
Wow. Yeah, that went crazy when that transition is what I was like, man, even that face, I was like,
I appreciate it.
But to you, what does hip hop mean to you personally?
Man, hip hop, and I'm going to try to formulate my own definition because, we've heard so many different meanings of hip hop over the years, and not to say they were wrong, but they're just they're people's personal like definitions of hip hop. To me, hip hop is a way of therapy without sitting in front of a therapist. It can be, and that's what I use it as. Hip hop is very therapeutic, and I know we may delve in deeper on this, but like it definitely has changed my ideas about a lot of things, or it made me stand on my ideas that I may have already had about things, and hearing the opposite reasoning from somebody. I've learned a lot of things from hip hop. I've learned a lot about a lot of places. A lot of us that are very deep into hip hop know a lot about a lot of places that we've never been to.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the regional aspect of hip hop because that teaches you. Like, I know a lot about Brooklyn. I know a lot about the 5 boroughs of New York. I know it's not considered a borough of New York. I know, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I know, and that's what that's one of the first places I think we learned about in hip hop is New York. The accents, the difference in people that come from different places. Like, hip hop is such like it could be a black man's biography. You know what I mean? Like, it could be a black woman's biography. It can make you cry. It can make you laugh. It can create, like I said, new ways of thinking. It can give you new perspectives. It can realize how screwed up we are as a human race sometimes. It can make you realize, like it can if you delve in deeper, you can realize where a lot of our hurt and pain comes from and how we share that. Over the course of these years, even despite wherever we're from, a lot of people can relate to certain things if you're just from a certain place. Like,
absolutely, I'm
pretty sure Brooklyn and Baltimore got a lot in common. You get what I'm saying? So it's just Brooklyn, Long Island, Queens, Staten Island, like a lot of these places, Jersey, a lot of these places just have a lot in common. Cali, oh my goodness, Compton. How many times I know a lot about Compton? I don't know what Rosecrans is, but I know what Slauson, I don't know like the actual street, but I've heard Rosecrans so much. I've heard Slauson so much. I've heard Slauson Swap Meet so much. I've heard, in Chicago on the old block, like it gives you these, Inglewood, rather that is Chicago or California. Like, you learn about all of these regions by not having to visit, and obviously visiting these places gives you much more of a hands-on experience or just in life experience. But like hip hop is amazing because it has those corners that can teach you, it can teach you what not to do. Like, got songs about cooking crack, what I'm saying? 10 crack commandments, you know what I mean? Like, Biggie, laying it out. The Ice Cream Man, the Dope Man by Master P, even that, right? Realizing how similar hip hop is regardless of the region. It's probably 2 songs that just sound totally different that are talking the same thing that, you can correlate. The expansion of hip hop, like hip hop to me is just a world of like just great storytelling, a lot of ambition and just like the therapy away from the therapist. You know what I
And
mean?
that was my next question. Like, for example, I know DMX used it as his way of, kind of, he was a good example. And even when you think of Nas with, his storytelling with out in Queensbridge and his first album, for example, Illmatic, when you look at, well, I'm a person who read the comments and stuff, and you'll be
Mhm.
surprised how many people like, this taught me way of life coming up, or this was like the blueprint, how
Yeah.
I, made it through life. And if it wasn't for this album, I don't think I would be here, like things like that. So that's definitely when you say, how people can relate. Like, it's more than just listening. It's like,
Yeah.
people, dealing with similar situations.
Yeah. It puts you in their shoes in a sense, you know.
So still on storytelling, do you see yourself, see your music as more storytelling, expression, or something else?
Plethora. Like
Okay.
I've told crazy stories. I'll have to send you my EP I did in 2020. I re-released it in 2024. It's called the Standstill EP, and I have this song on it called Wrong Time, and I think it's one of the realest stories I've told. And that was kind of like I said, it was therapy. So it's basically about my ideology of what I deem a relationship to be, right? Like, or just my past experiences in relationships, and how that contributes to the way I may view my jadedness when it comes to somebody I may meet after a horrible relationship. And that song was really therapeutic, and it's a lot of people's favorite song by me. I'm using auto tune in it. Like, it's not overly done, it's just the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And I do use auto tune a lot, but I try to disguise it, like when I'm singing and stuff like that, because mainly it's just for hooks and stuff. Like, I will never sing a whole song. I have done it just to experiment with it. I've done an R&B song before, and I kind of freestyled that because it's kind of easy to sing and freestyle and punch in. But like when I'm, for me, but when I draw out conclusions and stuff, I need to be very precise in the lyrics I say. So yeah, Wrong Time. And then I have this song that I might send it to you as well that I haven't released, called, I don't even remember what I called it. I'm mature, right? But it's literally a play on being immature, because it's I'm dash mature, but it's really immature. And it's literally, I'm painting a picture of how we grow up, like how fast life is moving, and then being and admittedly saying that I wasn't ready to grow up. Because in certain situations, like, it's like, what is this? I was just da da da. Like, I was just in high school. I was just, you know what I mean? And it was just actually speaking to how fleeting time is. And in those songs, I was very poignant, in what I was putting down, as far as like painting that picture of time uncontrollably, being not on our side, you know what I mean? So, but then another time is expression, a lot of it, even in the storytelling, it is expressing, like, a thought that I may have had, and I'm just expounding upon. So yeah, I feel like I'm versatile in that manner. Like, it kind of depends on the idea, but I always want to get a concept across in whatever manner I can.
Now, I know we talked prior about your projects, but what are you currently working on now?
So I moved to Charlotte in 2023, right? So even like in moving to Charlotte, it was a pleasant experience, has been a pleasant experience. Even like the idea of like my family being okay with it. Me not, this move allowed me to not feel tethered to certain things or certain ideas that I may have been like in a bind with, just being in, a certain environment before I moved. It's some type of liberty, it's kind of liberating. And then actually reconnecting with my roots, because it's a lot of my family is from North Carolina, South Carolina, you know what I mean? So, and no matter where you go in this country, somebody's family is going to be from North Carolina. That's just how it goes, right? But it was me kind of talking about that transgression. Maybe I'm using that right. I could be using that wrong. But like the traversing the road from Baltimore to Laurel, where me and my fiance lived before we moved here, to Charlotte, and kind of showing my different mindsets in between those things. And it's going to be called New Terra, hence the song I sent you is called the titular track, as they say. New Terra is going to be based on discovery of new land, like in not even in a physical sense, but more so in a idea sense. Like, the idea of letting certain things go that you may have, been married to for whatever reason, and realizing like, you know, being comfortable with learning new things about yourself. Being comfortable with discovery and being comfortable with actually hardships, being comfortable with challenges, and let's keep it 100. I feel like I'm 33 now. I'll be 34 next month. I'm not that far from 40. You know what I mean? Like I'm just not. Like, granted, yeah, I got 6 years, but I got gray hairs now. So it's just and actually not being ashamed of that. You know what I mean? Like, I've been graying since I was 19. You know what I mean? But and we know gray hair don't really mean much. Yeah. But just not being ashamed of it. And kind of the concept of aging. And the difference of getting older and maturing. I think that's what I want to indulge in. And even, like, to be honest about my ADHD, and like, how I mentally I can't sit still, and how that affects everything that I'm experiencing, because it is an aspect of, I have to consider that in certain environments, because it's going to take, with certain things taking a focus, the certain things take that, maybe sometimes I don't feel like I have, you know what I mean? So just being honest about that type of stuff.
So do you have any your collaborations, I should say, or producers that you would love to work with?
Yeah. So I got some, what can I say? I have some very things that can happen, that can happen like very soon. Then I got some things that, like, in a perfect world, shoot for the stars type of situation.
Yeah.
So I will put him out here. So Skyzoo, speaking of Skyzoo, emailed him. I'm a big fan of him. A Dream Deferred, I think it's his first album I've heard from him. And I think he released that back in the 2010s, or it might have been 2009. And I'm not going to say I keep up with everything he released, but I do listen to Skyzoo, and I reached out to him, and he handles his own. I don't know if that's still the case, because this was like 3 years ago. He handles his own, like, he's kind of his own manager. So reached out to him for a collab, and he gave me a number, everything like that. It was just that, 2020, early 20s, close to like right after COVID, it was a very stressful time. So I didn't do what I had to do to follow up, But he even gave me a good number, because he didn't remember me open up for him, but the fact that, I opened up for him, he was like, bro, that's dope. You know what I mean? Like, appreciate you doing that, stuff like that. And he kind of looked out for me on the price, which it was a very doable price. It's still doable to this day. Will it be the same? No, he probably put his little inflation on it because of tariffs and stuff, what I mean? But rightfully so. But that was an opportunity that I don't think I squandered, because who's to say? But it's just that at that time, it was just too many moving pieces for me to kind of, stay engaged with that. And that's on me, obviously. But, I think that's a very doable feature. And I would love for him, stylistically, he matches my vibe perfect. You know what I mean? Even the song I was going to put him on, I think he would have tried to dog walk me, you know what I mean? But Skyzoo, definitely. I have some local, not so local, but local artists, because the talent isn't local. I just say local because they are in proximity. But like this dude named Tacoby Hines, he's from this area. I think he's not from Charlotte. Is he from Rocky Mount? Excuse me, but Tacoby is dope. Really dope artist. Very, very, very meticulous in how he approaches songs, but it's also a freedom to him. I want to work with him. A dude named Lenny that I've seen around the city a couple times. Actually met him and Tacoby at the same time. I would like to work with him. And I think a young lady that's interviewing me right now named T, she got hop on the track with me when we she got a bar with me, because she like General Zod, you feel? She like General Zod. Yo, crazy enough, to caveat or to sidetrack. So it's a young lady. She liked the post before we hopped on the Yvette Rose.
Yeah, I think we
Bruh, I showed her your freestyle. When I seen her, I bumped into her Saturday, and she's another dope artist. She's like kind of my protege, Like that's the first one and only person I've ever engineered in life. And I bumped into her Saturday and I showed her your video. I'm like, yo, when I tell you, nah, because it's not like her and Rose too. Her approach is vastly different. But when I tell you, that's a talented young lady right there. And I feel like y'all would be kind of dope together, like doing something together.
It's crazy because we followed each other, so I'm excited now to take a look when we finish.
Because man, so and when I showed her your first freestyle, I think it had like 200 something likes on there. When you did reference the General Zod, I remember that's a standout line to me. I was like, yo, she bar up, like she ain't no joke. So, and you know, Rose is much more poetic with her approach, but Rose be barring up too. Her wordplay is ridiculous. Even some of the stuff she said, I'm like, how'd you think of that? Like, you know what I mean? So, and she's so young, like, you know what I mean? So her potential is sky high for real. And like I actually am gonna put out something with Rose. She's actually on that beginning of New Terra that I sent you. She's doing the excerpt of the poem in the very beginning. Yeah, so she's doing that, but I actually want to put something out with me and her, like actually rapping on it. So yeah, who else? All right, so I'm gonna shoot for the stars. Obviously, the norm. Like I would love to work. I would love for like Pharrell to work. You know, to like you know bump into my music some type of way. Like my fiance is from Virginia Beach, right? You know what I mean? So she. Like, so we both geek out of Pharrell because Pharrell and Alchemist are very high on my list as far as producers.
Okay.
So obviously I would love to work with Alchemist. Collab wise, I don't know, because this was around the time where a lot of like they were doing like a lot of those scams were trying to get unsigned artists to like pay people to put them on the album. So I don't know if I was conversing with Benny the Butcher or not. I would still love to get a feature with Benny the Butcher. I think he's talented. I mean, obviously beyond talent. I think he's really dope. And I think that he talks about the way he talks about what he talks about is a very particular way. He doesn't sound like anybody. Obviously, the Kendricks of the world and stuff like that, Lauryn Hills of the world, Rhapsody, I would love to get a feature with Rhapsody. Like it's endless amount, countless, amount of people that I think that are like fire, that really inspire me to like just keep making music no matter how old I am. And then a lot of these artists are older, like Rhapsody being in her 40s, Benny, I think he is in his or just hit 40 or something like that.
And Nas and Slick Rick, I don't know if it's latest music or if it's just old music that they've been sitting on, but you see Nas and Slick Rick, they still putting out albums and they selling out.
Rightfully so. That King's Disease run by Nas is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Magic and King's Disease run by, man, even Hit Boy. Like I would love because Hit Boy posted me on his page before. People were doing submissions to like the album he came out with back in 2023, I believe, and posted me on his page. One of the submissions. Along with other dope people, but like would love to work with Hit Boy, like countless amounts.
Yeah, no.
Like
a lot of
artists, the Tylers, the like the TDE artists, like like I think it's just a lot of people I would like to work with in a perfect world, if you know what I mean. Not to say it's not possible, but like shooting for the stars.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of older artists and they selling out shows still.
Yeah.
Still selling out shows because they know how to put on a show, Yeah,
and they have a loyal fan base.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So let's say with your music, what feeling or message do you want people to take away from your music?
So I think like one of the biggest qualities, or traits that I try to lead with musically is being relatable, and understanding like just what can I say? Like being relatable and then just acknowledging the challenges of being human in human era and battles with beliefs and faith and what I mean, like just the relatable aspect of music and not the glory. I mean, not to glorify anything that isn't conducive to like the mindset. You know what I mean? Like I think being self-deprecation is very important, and I think self-actualization is just as important, where you realize like, nah, like this ain't I'm fire at rapping, but as a man, I ain't good at everything. And that's okay to talk about. Being vulnerable in that sense, you know what I mean? But also celebrating yourself in those moments where like you deserve to be celebrated, not falsifying anything. Like I may have embellished because we all embellish, and it's aspect of rapping is entertainment, so I may have embellished, but like just being as truthful as possible, being as truthful as possible. And I got a song, an intro. I got a lot of music, and it's kind of like standard. Like say if I engineer you or something, I just go through music because if I'm not using it, I want to share my art with you, but if I'm not using it, you may can have it. You know what I mean? So you may can have the instrumental or whatever. But like I have songs that I have not released, and one of the songs I said on the it was a verse when I kind of talked about, my uncle cut my hair for years back in Baltimore, or shaped me up when I started growing hair. It was a guy in there. We had a great conversation like in the past, but all it was, my uncle was playing my EP on YouTube in the barbershop, and people were vibing with it. And then he was like, man, you may want to talk about selling crack. You know what I mean? They did put the medicine in the candy. I'm like, where's this coming from? What? Huh? So in my mind, I kept a straight face. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, I'm standing on my word. I'm like, nah, bro. Like, I said, what did I say? I have the line. I have to read the line. Because I have to read it to you. So talk about the track. Yeah, about the track. Sorry for this.
Yeah, no, you good.
I remember chilling at the barbershop, just kick it back. My uncle that cuts my hair said he inspired by my raps. Another guy in there said you should rap about the trap, but I ain't never been a trap, so that would be a trap. You know what I mean? That was the, you know what I mean? Like, cause if I talk about something that I'm not entrenched in, like, people find me out. People have field day. Like we know these days, people love to have field day. Not to say that I'm, big enough to do that with, but it's the people that I've grown up with that know me, that know I rap, that knows my background, and know
he don't get down like this.
Yeah, like, and he don't even pretend to. I'm not that. I'm not qualified to do that. So and also heed everybody's. I would say it's important to not consider everybody's take on certain things, but don't be scared to learn certain things from or learn, because that was a learning process of what not to do. You know what I mean? So everybody, just it kind of opens your mind up to just different perspectives. And I think rap being all about perspective, whether you agree with it or not, it's just important for me to kind of advocate for the people that are kind of in my shoes, because there's more people in my shoes than we like to realize, or more people in your shoes that we like to realize aren't that, it's not that many degrees of separation from that type of stuff happening. I've had family members that have been entrenched to that, family members that I'm very, very close to that has been entrenched in that lifestyle. I've witnessed it. I've been a part of it, like just being around it in those environments. I'm from where I'm from, you know what I mean? So yeah, but that's not what I bleed. That's not what I'm just not that. So it's just important to kind of stick to the rivers that you're used to in TLC, you know what I mean? TLC words. So I think it's just the relatable aspect about everything.
Lingo, well, that wraps up our segment. As soon as you release your album here right on the platform, so that'll be posted when that's ready. Let the people know where they can find you, your platforms.
So I'm Lingotheicon on everything, all streaming platforms, Instagram, I know we're using Threads now. I'm not really on there like that, but and then my backup page is Lingo the Music, Lingotheicon Music, and then my main page is Lingotheicon. So either one of those pages is fine. Like I said, Lingotheicon on all streaming platforms, and you can hear my past work, you know what I mean, and get in tune, because I got some pretty decent stuff coming up, so.
And I'll make sure to tag all the links below too. You guys make sure you turn your notifications on, subscribe, like, share, so you'll be the first one to know when this episode drop. Again, it's DahJP on the mic.